After 3 years and millions of tax dollars spent, the federal government is pulling the plug on a committee that was supposed to help find unmarked graves at former residential schools. And despite all the outrage over this funding cut, here's the simple fact. Not a single body has been found. Not one. The Canadian residential school system was a harmful institution designed to forcibly assimilate Indigenous children. Within these schools, many children suffered abuse, leading to lasting impacts on the Indigenous communities. There's no denying that. However, when it comes to unmarked graves, there is no evidence that they exist. Yet we're still being told this is a betrayal. Crystal Gale Fraser, a founding member of the now defunded committee, says, "We are losing sight of our values around truth and reconciliation. But is it really a betrayal to stop funding a search that hasn't produced any results? Or is it simply long overdue accountability?" This entire initiative began after the 2021 Kamloops announcement that ground-penetrating radar had detected potential burial sites. The country was thrown into turmoil, international headlines condemned Canada, the Prime Minister lowered the flags for months and ultimately blamed the Pope. But here we are years later with no forensic findings and no confirmed remains. In any other situation, a lack of evidence after several years of searching would warrant a serious reassessment. For those wondering, the Canadian government has already spent over $216 million tax dollars through 146 funding agreements to Indigenous communities and organizations aimed at documenting, locating, and commemorating children from residential schools, as well as identifying unmarked burial sites associated with these institutions. More than 100 Indigenous communities are conducting their own searches, and the government is still offering funding through the Residential School Missing Children Community Support Fund, which honestly is questionable in my opinion. But regardless of that, this isn't about abandoning Indigenous communities. It's about cutting off a committee that was clearly more focused on keeping itself funded than producing any results. Judy Gingell, chair of the Yukon Residential School Missing Children's Project, says the decision is cruel and that the government has pulled the rug out from under survivors. But what's truly cruel is pushing a narrative of mass graves without evidence to back it up, keeping people in a constant state of trauma, both Indigenous and Canadians who carry the guilt for something that doesn't appear to be true, while funneling public money into initiatives that haven't provided any results. The truth matters, and if after years of searching nothing has been found, then maybe the real betrayal was how quickly this entire situation was treated as unquestionable fact, and how it was deliberately used to make Canadians resent their own culture. Cutting this funding isn't a betrayal. It's an overdue correction.